I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, October the 8th, brought to you in part by Fairpiece, that revolutionary product that is scientifically proven. Address the stress in your cattle. I have producers all over that would be glad to give testimonials about Fairpiece, and some of them are the hardest guys that I know. Jim Felton from the Felton Angus Ranch gave it to his AI heifers and got 98% conception, which is unheard of, guys. There's been lots of guys that have been weaning and get along with it great. The latest was Mark Archibald there from Grande Valley Ranch Feeders there. He gave it to balling calves that he was weaning there, and they settled right down and got along great there. I had a major order buyer in small sale barns that told me he wishes the barns would apply it whenever they're tagging the cattle when they come in. It works, guys, and it's too cheap not to use. You've got to try it, guys. For more information, go to fairpiece.com. Things are looking up, and you know, as we start out this week, and a week's still early, but the board's been very, very friendly so far this week. Cash feeders have been very friendly. We've seen all-time record highs for the nation posted all around this week, just making huge strides, and it's happening right when we felt like the market was getting tired and was going to start coming down, and it's right in the face of the heavier fall run. So we're really seeing this market take off, although fats are off a little bit. But it looks like they're going to be at least steady this week. The October live cattle futures is 250 higher than last week's weighted average in the 4-area feeding region. But we're looking like we could come into a negative basis, and that's going to be interesting because your fat cattle sellers are really going to dig their heels into the ground because they hate a negative basis. You know, after all the beat up they've taken margin calls on those cattle as this market's been going up, and then now take another $2 or $3 hit whenever they sell the cattle. They're not going to want to do that, but the northern packers are backed up with a lot of market ready cattle, and we're hearing that there's a lot of those cattle that are getting dangerously heavy, and heavy enough where some of your major packing plants don't want to take them. But it's going to be a struggle here to see what goes on, but they still want feeder cattle, guys. There's no other way to make a profit on this grain that's coming out below the cost of production, and they've got to put it through some cattle to make it work. I want to recognize the passing of John Owens from Red Bluff, California. He was a monster in the cattle business out there, and he was very instrumental in the Red Bluff bull, horse, and stock dog sale out there, and he was a feeder flash gang member and a really good guy. So we want to recognize his passing, and we hate to hear about that. Let's talk about your board on Tuesday. October live cattle futures up 122 at 233.10. December live cattle up 105 at 237.75. That's quite a premium. And your back months were up $1.10 to up 140. October feeder cattle up 310 at 365.50. November up 345 at 364.25. And all your back months on feeder cattle up 287 to up 380. And it looked like your feeder cattle futures, you know, they just spit and sputtered kind of like they did on Monday until they started seeing some of the auctions. And when the auctions were selling cattle so high, it's like they kind of got with it, and then they pulled the live cattle up with them. That's what seemed to happen on Tuesday. December corn, new crop there, down 2 cents a bushel at 4.19 3/4. November new crop beans up 4 1/4 cents a bushel at 10.22. Hard red winter wheat for December down 3 1/2 at 4.92 a bushel. Your fat cattle trade didn't see much at all in your direct sales out in the country there, but Iowa did sell 200 head confirmed from 228 to 230, and that's square within last week's range. Might have been some guys with some heavy cattle needing to get rid of them. All of your feedlots in Nebraska, Kansas, and Texas did not sell a hoof, so they're holding in there tight. We did have our market finder like we always do on Tuesday. It was Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. Had a little bit lighter run there. 1,200 head in overnight, 2,050 head of fed cattle for their fed cattle auction there. And it was active. The conventional fed cattle sell from $228.50 to $238, which was steady to $2 higher. Drug-free cattle were not tested. Non-implanted cattle sell from $232 to $239, and that was steady to $2 higher. It was interesting. The $239 was posted on 57 head of 1,679 pound fed cattle there. That producer was offered $220 out of the lot there last week, and he decided, no, I think I'll take them into Yankton and see what happens there. Ended up with $239. Gary Marks did tell me that the quality and then the flesh condition on the cattle was very good and comparable to last week's sale. Box beef cutout values up again 2 days in a row. I mean, this is developing a trend here after being down almost all of last month. Your choice cuts at $365.97, that's up $263. Selects up 91 cents at $348.88. Your slaughter just through the first 2 days of the week, 217,000 estimated cattle slaughter is all. That's 16,000 less than just last week and 17,000 less than this point a year ago. I want to tell you about Brangus genetics, guys. Brangus bulls are built to last, they're built for business, and they're built for your herd. If you're ready to invest in genetics that adds value where it matters, it's time to visit GoBrangus.com as we get ready for these bull sales coming up in the fall and the coming spring, guys. Talk about what else is going on. Performance Livestock Analytics. Talk about them all the time here. Performance Beef is software. It's as easy to use as your cell phone, guys. It combines feeding and input costs to create a professional and accurate invoice at the touch of a button anytime you want to give it. And the data captured by Performance Beef also enables you to create break-evens and closeouts within seconds. For more information, go to performancelivestockanalytics.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood, guys. Your real-time index based on an 800-pound cash auction steer through DVAuction there at the conclusion of your Tuesday auctions was sitting at $363.33. That's up $1.82, and pretty impressive considering the highest real-time index we've ever had was $367.84. Your steer tracker, which is the last 25 lots of index cattle with 5 head or more, was sitting at $371.17, so it's on the upswing, guys. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at $364.24. Talk about your big sales that happened on Tuesday. Of course, Tuesday's Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, they had a big sale. Had 5,400 head on offer. They underestimated again. Big sale there. And I pulled this before the federal state market report was out, but feeder steers sure look to me $4 to $10 higher, and they were down a little bit last week, so that was sure easy call there. 4 to 10 higher on feeder steers. Feeder heifers were more higher than that. They were sharply higher in cases on the feeder heifers that were on offer. Calves fairly uneven. And of course, that's typical this time of year, depending on the condition, the weaning, and all that happened on the calves. But really good sale there in Beaver. Beaver was your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard Livestock Equipment, stick-out sale of the day. You look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see your best tested weights. There were 486 head of 6-weight steers in Beaver County stockyards. They averaged 637 with a weighted average price of $390.91. 698 head of the 7-weight steers averaged 760 at $372.28. There were 1,192 head of 8-weight feeder steers in Beaver, Oklahoma on Tuesday. They averaged 860 with a weighted average price of $365.05. 487 head of the 9-weights in Beaver averaged 938 at $343.39. Let's look at some of the heifers. How about 279 head of 5-weight heifer calves averaged 553 at $368.93. 438 head of the 6-weight heifers averaged 659 at $350.61. And 298 head of 7-weight heifers averaged 743 at $350.09. And they had 506 head of 8-weight feeder heifers at Beaver County stockyards averaged 814 at $334.35. The most impressive quote that I saw come out of Beaver was on some of the Ratcliffe steers. And of course, we know how good the quality is on them. They come in right off the grass. Indeed, they sold some cattle early in the morning or about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. They were so impressed with the sale on them, they sent the cowboys and the trucks out to gather some more, and they come back in later in the sale with a few more sales. And later in the sale, they sold 226 head of steers right off grass. They're top quality Ratcliffe kind, averaged 865 pounds at $382. Wow, big sale there. Let's talk about Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri. They had about 1,750 head through the ring, another 1,500 head that come in through their in-house video that they do with help from DVAuction. The through the ring cattle, the calves sold $8 to $12 higher with spots of $20 higher. And on their in-house video, the Heckworth cattle there, they had home-raised steers, 203 head of steers, and they were black Angus cattle, a lot of Keneally genetics in there. They weighed 535 pounds, or going to, that's a base weight on them, out of Van Buren, Missouri, bring 450 and a half. Big time quote out of that part of the country, guys. Let's get some other quotes. How about Alabama Livestock in Uniontown, Alabama? That's Jimmy Seeley there. And he has big board sales all the time included in his regular sale. He's a DVAuction broadcaster there. Included in his board sale was the Ballard Farms, and they had some black heifers there. A load of them weighed 580 pounds and bring $412.50 in Alabama, guys. That's a big time quote. How about our friends at Unionville Livestock Market? That's Kurt and Heather Sporleader, and they've got the Rockin' R cattle. That's their big consignor, and they come just about every time they have a special. I can't imagine how many cattle their background in there at Rockin' R at Lucerne, Missouri. But on Tuesday, they sold 6 loads, 372 head of those good steers there. There was a 13-pound difference in 6 loads of the cattle. That's how uniform and good they are, guys. Those 6 loads averaged 831 pounds a load with an average price on the loads of $365.42. Very impressive. How about Kingsville Livestock Auction in Kingsville, Missouri? Another DVAuction broadcaster there. They sold 62 steers, weighed 768 at $390. How about Fredonia Livestock Auction? Brad Hahn, friends of ours out there, DVAuction broadcasters. They sold 63 steers, weighed 801 pounds at $379.50. That's impressive. Some other quotes way up northern plains there. How about Phillip Livestock Auction, Phillip, South Dakota? 112 steers, weighed 499. That could be 500 pounds, guys, at $546. Wow. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday and your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Beaver County Stockyards, of course. 121 steers, weighed 912 pounds, had a 9 as a front figure, bring 368 1/4. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.